Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, we are 48 hours in to the Penn State head coaching search, and you're starting to get a pretty dang good feel of what names are generating the most amount of buzz early. And I think you got a top three names, right? Matt Rhule at Nebraska seems to be the most popular name at this stage. I certainly have some takes on that one. Curt Cignetti getting a lot of buzz. That one was pretty damn obvious. And Dill, Coach Drink at Missouri, who I'm a monster fan of as well. Those seem to be the three names that are the most popular at this time. You're also hearing some wild card names like Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame has been tossed around. Dill, Urban Meyer has been tossed around as well. Want to get into some of those names as well, but I do want to start with this. I don't blame. And here's the thing. I'm listening to a lot of different takes on James Franklin getting fired. I don't think there's a Penn State fan out there that doesn't appreciate what James Franklin has done for the last decade at this program. He's done a phenomenal job, but at the same time, I'm not going to blame the Penn State administration, and I'm certainly not going to blame the Penn State fans for saying, we want to see if we can take that next step. And I think a lot of the Penn State fans recognize the risk. You had a very good coach in James Franklin. Hell, James Franklin's a better coach than 90% of the other Power Four coaches that you see in the country. But Dill, chasing that national championship at a program like Penn State, I'm not going to blame anybody for wanting to try to take that next step. And I think that's why.
Especially when you give the resources like that's necessary to do it. It's like we saw Penn State take a very clear new direction almost. I don't know that James Franklin, frankly, had what Ohio State had maybe for parts of his tenure. I think you saw these last couple of years, Penn State was really going in, giving him the budget to buy the best coaching staff in the country, giving him kind of what he needs. So I'm kind of like with you. Like, frankly, if you're going to devote like that and you're the Penn State fan base, alumni, everything, you should expect to be a championship level team. And you said it. We never saw a Penn State team that was championship level under James Franklin.
And I think it kind of got clear that maybe James Franklin was hitting his ceiling at Penn State. And so I don't blame Penn State for trying to move on. Now, I do want to say one thing because I've been really thinking about, all right, what are the qualities that I want to see in the next head coach of this program? And there's two things, Dill. Number one, proven talent acquisition. Why has Penn State fallen short of reaching the mountaintop of the sport? Dill, one of the reasons is they recruit well. They bring in talent at a pretty darn good level. It's not at an elite level. You know, over the last decade with James Franklin, for the last 10 years, they've signed only 2 top 10 recruiting classes out of high school. They've never been extremely active in the transfer portal. So I felt, look, I want a coach that can maximize what this program can be when it comes to talent acquisition. And Dill, there ain't no reason that Penn State cannot consistently be a top 10 program when it comes to the recruiting trail. Number two, and this is what I'm starting to really realize is a big deal, especially in this era of college football. Can you make the right hires around you, man? I go look at Nick Saban, the gold standard of running a very successful program at a national championship caliber level. Dill, he made the right hires every single time he had the opportunity. Then you look at the rest of the coaches that are having a lot of success in this era. They all have, like Curt Cignetti at Indiana. They ain't nobody that has surrounded himself with a better coaching staff than Curt Cignetti at Indiana. And so those are some of the qualities that I would like to see Penn State really go after and pursue. Now let's get into the names. Before we do, and as always, Penn State fans, hey, this is going to be a busy next couple of weeks and months. Please let it fly in the comments section. Thoughts, opinions, ideal coaches. Would love to hear from you guys. The amount of support, I'm fired up for the next couple of weeks and months because we're Michigan fans. You know, we've been down to games at Penn State. We know what this program can offer and what this program can be. And so it's going to be really exciting to see where they go and what guy they choose to bring in to run this program. Let it fly. Appreciate you guys. Dill, I'm going to put you on the tee box here. Matt Rhule at Nebraska seems to be the most popular name. How are we feeling about it?
Yeah, I don't love this one, to be honest.
Me neither.
I think if I look at Matt Rhule's tenure, the recruiting, I'd say extraordinarily disappointing. And I think part of my issue is like a lot of excuses out of Matt Rhule in terms of why he can't do certain things. Oh, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough this. Like, there's just always reasons why he's falling short a little bit. And I don't know. I don't get a great vibe in terms of what he can do at those real power programs. Like, I think he is good in that underdog role, that underdog mentality. I'm very concerned about what he can do at the top, where I don't know that his message plays the same way. There's just something about his tenure at Nebraska that feels like
I'm going to go less vibes. I think you're leaning too much into vibes here, and I don't blame you for leaning into vibes. Number one, in what ways is Matt Rhule an upgrade from James Franklin? Do we think he's a better recruiter? Do we think he hires better staffs around him? Like the answers to no to both of those questions, right? I've been really disappointed in terms of what Matt Rhule has done from a talent acquisition standpoint. Dill completely ignored the high school recruiting class in 2026. I don't think has done an extraordinary job addressing his team's needs in the transfer portal.
Well, the evaluations at certain spots have been really, really weak. And it probably starts with their offensive line. Like, you can't be year 3 and trot an offensive line out. That's at the level that this Nebraska team's doing. And again, he went out there and spent a little bit. Like, they brought in that Alabama left tackle Elijah Pritchard, paid for him, and he is really, really bad. I think it was kind of surprising, frankly, when he came in. To me, like, that's probably the biggest issue is I'm looking at an offensive line that is bottom half of the Big Ten. And if you're at Nebraska and you're being given the resources to not be at the bottom, you can't be like that.
That's kind of what I'm trying to say here is I don't think he has lack of resources. Like they went out and spent some significant money, not only on Dylan, the high school ranks, but also in the transfer portal. And the tackle they decided to give $1 million to is just a proven not good football player, where there were some other tackles that would have been much better options.
You look at like what Texas Tech has and some of these other programs that, you knew they needed linemen. They went out there and got good football
quality linemen.
That is not what Nebraska is.
Same thing with the interior of the defensive line. Like, I don't know what they were thinking there. And that's holding Nebraska back. I think Nebraska can be a damn good football team this year. They are held back dramatically in terms of what they went out and spent their money on that defensive line too. So I look, and then he started off his tenure in Nebraska hiring Coach Satterfield, just like proven pretty bad offensive coordinator, but you were buddies with him. I don't know how you can justify. And look, if Matt Rhule takes the job at Penn State, could he have some success? Yeah, absolutely. But on paper, I just don't see how Matt Rhule is an upgrade from James Franklin. If you're going to part ways with James Franklin, I would expect you to have better names on your docket than Matt Rhule. That's just my personal opinion.
That's the guy who's next up, right? This has to be target one, right?
Yeah.
And I think the people, just to like start this out, saying he wouldn't leave Indiana for Penn State, or that Penn State is a worse job in today's era of college football.
Yeah.
I think those people are like totally out of their minds. I know Curt Cignetti is a good coach, and right now Indiana is probably a better team than Penn State, but that's Curt Cignetti. It's not like this Indiana team is recruiting big time classes. And again, you're starting to see him punch above his weight, I think, in terms of what Indiana has historically been able to sell. But a fully backed Penn State versus a fully backed Indiana, to me, is not particularly close.
And Dill, here's what fires me up the most about Curt Cignetti. Is what has he done at Indiana? He got to Indiana. He turned this school into a football school in 18 months, man. Less than 18 months. What happens if he can do the same thing? I have no reason to believe he can't do the same at Penn State. And look, Penn State's a football school, but the James Franklin get the whole weight of this university behind this football program. You could argue there's some meat left on the bone. Curt Cignetti going to grab up all that meat, man. And then the second part is, a winner and a proven winner at the highest level, which should be an important conversation too, is, hey, we're looking for a coach that has shown they can go out and win those marquee games. Curt Cignetti just showed us that on the road against Oregon, and it has an elite coaching staff around him. And he's probably going to bring most of that coaching staff to Happy Valley, which I believe is the best coaching staff in the country. I think it's a no-brainer. And again, the crazy part is, it sounds like the sticking point is convincing him to come to Penn State. And so if Curt Cignetti does come to Penn State, Penn State's prepared to allocate a lot of resources to the success
Well,
of Curt
and that
Cignetti.
is the exciting part if you're Penn State. Like when you make this type of move, I think it does kind of like reset the backing. And like I think again,
Yes.
like that is probably a challenge with incumbent coaches who have been there for a while. I think like you don't have
Yeah.
that same urgency from the
Gets a little
fan base,
stale.
the donor base, and everyone who needs to
Yep.
have that sort of urgency. It's tough to have it year after year. I think now you have this Penn State move, like it does kind of reinvigorate everyone. And again, I look what Penn State can marshal resource wise, it just doesn't feel close to what Indiana can do.
Let's talk about Coach Drink. And this one, he'd probably be my second option out of the three, right? Curt Cignetti would be my number one option. I think Coach Drink would be a much better option than Matt Rhule for a couple of different reasons. And one, has done a better job building that roster with probably similar to maybe even less resources at Missouri. Kind of hard to tell. Nebraska, Missouri, I'd put on like even playing field in terms of resources to work with. There's one coach that's managed it a hell of a lot better, and that's Coach Drink, right? I mean, building not only
He,
do
he
the
doesn't do the like the Mark Stoops or the Matt Rule, like, oh, I look at the school across the street from me, I don't have what they have. It's like I've never heard that out of Coach Drink. He's gotten it done. He's kind of gotten them pushing up against those top tier SEC teams. And I do think that mentality matters, especially when you're going to go try to be like the big dog. And that's what Penn State's kind of moving to. Like they're going to try to go be Ohio State,
beat Ohio State. We're bringing in this next head coach to overtake Michigan, to overtake Ohio State, to overtake Oregon. That is the whole goal of moving on from James Franklin. James Franklin would still be your head coach if Penn State didn't want to become the best team, not only in the Big Ten, but in the country. Coach Drink, he don't complain. He just gets to work, man. And again, I think he's a very, very good football mind that continues to hire an elite staff around him. They lose Blake Baker to LSU. They just run it back with just as good of coordinators, man. I think he's awesome. Would make a ton of sense. And hey, you want to kickstart the Coach Drink era at Penn State? He'll bring Matt Zollers back to the state of Pennsylvania with him, man. I think it makes a lot of sense. All right, let's talk about the crazy one that I did not expect, but I ain't gonna. Urban Meyer, I'll give you the T-box first. Well, what are we thinking?
If you can get him there, he is kind of the white whale of college football right now. I look like there's not a ton of proven options. Like you look at the best coaches in the sport, frankly, they're either in the NFL or I think they've kind of hung it up like the Nick Sabans, the Urban Meyers. If you can go get Urban Meyer, you got to do it. I mean, just what he did at the college level and how quickly he was able to build teams into real dominant powerhouses. I think you got to take the shot. I mean, he's the one that like for sure. Like, does he have that fire in him still? Do you trust that you're gonna have him for enough time? But if you can get him, I think you got to take the shot. He was so good.
Yeah, and Urban Meyer wouldn't take this job unless he was promised resources. He ain't coming back to go 10-2. He ain't coming back to go 9-3. He's coming back to win a national championship at his third school. Ain't no doubt about that. One concern I'd have. There's some baggage, but I'm not concerned about the baggage. There's a lot of good coaches that might have some baggage with them. What I'd be more concerned about is how does he navigate the NIL era and the transfer portal era? Because he's never been a coach in this era where you had to lean on NIL and rev share, lean on the transfer portal.
Well, and his coaching style was so like in your face and aggressive, and like again, you kind of wonder, does it fit in this era? That's for sure a question. But I just look at guys who can succeed, and like Nick Saban was saying, like, yeah, I had to change some things I was going to do, but I'd do what I'd have to do to be successful. I do think Urban Meyer, I think he could figure that out. I just don't think you can argue with his track record.
Hey, winners adapt. And Urban Meyer's like him, hate him. You know the boys don't like him. He's a winner, and he's going to adapt and make the necessary changes to how he coaches and how he runs a program to win at the highest level. I'd be very, very intrigued with Urban Meyer and what he could bring.
What about Jimbo? I know Jimbo's not really
so.
getting any buzz. Do you think that's like totally crazy?
I don't think because look, do I think he's a great coach? No. Do I think he's a great hire of coaches? No. He was able to recruit pretty damn well both at Florida State and Texas A&M, but he never showed outside of striking some magic with JMO. I mean, like Texas A&M was such a disaster.
He did put the best team on the field, and like you look at that Florida State team he won a national championship.
Yeah.
That's one of the best college football teams to ever grace the field.
Yeah, I don't know if would that light the biggest fire under this Penn State program. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. He's just one of the ones out there. Like, there's very
Yeah.
few championship coaches you can go grab.
Sure.
I think
And
he's in the game to do it. I think he'd want to take the job.
yeah,
He'd be an interesting one because, again, like, does he come in with the fire you need? That's probably my biggest question about him, because I think you got that question a little bit at Florida State. Like, was he really committed to just winning, or was it like kind of appearances? And like there were some issues with his tenure there. But when he was like full motivated at Florida State, he was a monster.
have you seen any buzz around Jimbo Fisher?
No, but he's like one of those ones out there. I also don't think anyone knows yet. I mean, there's like some of the obvious names, but I think Penn State's going to swing hard. And like this next guy, and the buzz is out there. I think they're going to swing at basically everybody.
Talk about swinging hard, man. I saw Marcus Freeman get mentioned. Here's what. Sorry, you go first.
Do you think he'd leave Notre Dame?
That's where I want to talk, right? Because
he's got a good hire. He's an unbelievable hire. I just think he's got Notre Dame in a spot that, like, what does he not have at Notre Dame? I guess that'd be
that's what would excite me the most is if Marcus Freeman leaves Notre Dame to go to Penn State. You know, Penn State's making some real promises, right? We'll see. And again, this is what excites me if I'm a Penn State fan, is that there are a lot of programs. Everybody wants to talk about how you fire one, like what Wisconsin did. You know, you fire a guy like Paul Chryst, you bring in Luke Fickell, and it just doesn't work. We don't talk enough about the teams that stick with coaches too long, right? I think Penn State moved on from James Franklin to, like what you said, take a big swing. And this would be a big swing, and it would need a lot to get Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame to Penn State. But if they go out and do it, and they give Marcus Freeman the resources, because here's one of the things that I love about Marcus Freeman. Early on in his tenure, you could tell he was maybe a little over his skis, made some bad hires. I don't think built his rosters the right way. After a couple of years, like, man, he's figured it out. Made an elite hire with Coach Denbrock. Made an elite hire with Al Golden. We'll see if it works out with Chris Ash. He has shown a lot of good things. He's shown a lot of maturity as a head coach, and he's only going to get better. And he's a guy that has shown you that in those big games, in those big moments, his teams get up and play their best football. That team at Notre Dame last year was not the second best team in the country, right? They were not as good of a football team as Penn State. One team played and made the plays in the fourth quarter. One team didn't, and that was Marcus Freeman's team. We'll see where they go. Again, the three buzziest names, Matt Rhule, Cignetti, and Coach Drink. Urban Meyer's very intriguing. Marcus Freeman's very intriguing. And Dill, you said it best on Sunday afternoon. There are not many head coaches that would say no to this Penn State head coaching position.
Oh, and Penn State gives you the full force of Penn State, then
and they are. There's no way they're not given the full force here, right? They moved on from a very good head coach, right?
Yep.
All right, we'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. To the Penn State fans, let it fly in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.